Welcome to another fabulous, fantastic, and magical episode of My Orgasmic Life. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Gaia Morrissette, and today's episode is brought to you by ticklelife. Woo! Okay, so couple of things I want to do, like content warning and just get, FYI. So first thing is we're going to lean into shame today, and we're going to talk about shame. And shame can be a pretty heavy topic. So I just want to give you a heads up that that's what I'm going into today. Second thing is I've started a new thing. Today's first day, we're starting a new thing. So I have a Patreon account. And part of my Patreon account, I set up a couple months ago, was so that you guys, as the audience, as listeners, could have ways of getting better, not better content. All content for me is fabulous, but get more in-depth content with me, ways in which you could engage with me one-on-one, ask me questions, all sorts of really cool things. And so I set up my Patreon account for that. Now, I've decided what I'm going to do, and I'm giving you the heads up before you get into this episode, okay? So once a month, I'm going to do two-part series on particular topics. So today we're going to do shame. So today you get the free, on My Orgasmic Life, you get the free part 1. If you want part 2 and you want to listen to part 2, where we're going to go in more depth and give you some tools on, how to shift and change and all those kind of things, you're going to have to come hang out with me and become a Patreon member. It's only cost you $5 a month. So for an extra $5, you're going to get exclusive content. Okay. So I just wanted to give you, so that was all above board. So you don't feel like there's a bait and switch where I'm like, okay, and now if you want the rest of it, you're going to have to pay for it. No, I'm telling you straight up. So once a month, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it 2 parts. Today, we're starting today, okay? Shame. So let's lean into shame. Everybody take a breath with me. Let's all breathe in. Breathe in through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. One more time. Breathe in through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. All right, so now we're a little more grounded before we get into this conversation. So shame. Let's look at shame. So first, let's define shame so that we're all on the same page, so that we know what I'm talking about. So the difference between guilt and shame. So guilt is an emotion that we have to prevent us from becoming a sociopath. Yay, guilt. So you do something bad and you feel awful about it and you apologize, you course correct, and you don't do it again, okay? That's the purpose of guilt. Now, when guilt turns to shame is when we internalize that guilt. So we do something wrong, and then we make ourselves wrong. Not the action, not the behavior, not the thing that is wrong, but we are wrong. We are bad. There's something wrong and bad with us. That's what is the premise of shame. That's when guilt turns to shame. Okay, so that's one aspect. The second aspect of where shame happens is when other people put their shame judgments on us. So when other people make us wrong, make us bad, and make us awful, okay? And then we internalize that. It manifests inside of us as shame. And shame feels icky. Icky, icky, icky. I know that's not a technical term, but that's my technical term. It's like you feel dirty, and not in sort of like a good sort of I'm covered in clay dirt, but like dirty on your DNA, on your soul, on every cell of your being, and you feel wrong, and that there's nothing that you can do to make yourself feel clean. Okay? That's the hardcore shame feeling. So let's all take a moment and take a breath. And exhale. And at some point, all of us have felt shame. Whether it's because guilt turned into shame or because others have projected put on their shame and their judgments onto you. Okay? So we all have experienced this feeling. So I want to take a moment to shake it off, right? Because as I'm talking about it, it might be bringing up those feelings. And the whole point is that we want to be able to get rid of shame. And so one of the tools I'm going to give you in just being like, it's not mine, I give it away, it doesn't serve me. Okay, so I just want to take a breath and repeat after me. This is not mine, it doesn't serve me, and I release the shame. And shake your body. Okay, shake your body. Shake it out. Bye-bye. No, thank you. Not mine. Get the fuck out. No. Okay. So that's just a quick, easy way of getting, just a quick tool around shame, right? Releasing it, right? Acknowledging it's not yours and it doesn't serve you. All right. Now let's lean in a little deeper into how shame, when we carry it, how it can show up in our body. Actually, before I do that, before I go into that sharing, I want to talk about where shame really comes from. So typically there are a couple different areas that we get shamed from. The biggest one and the biggest culprit is religion. The second one is where we grew up in our household, so the belief systems of our parents passing along to us. The next one is shame from our peers. And the fourth one is from society. Okay, so those are the four major places that we pick up shame, which again is usually other people's shit, not ours. And typically, shame is attached to a couple different areas. So the first area it's attached to, of course, is sex. This is why I'm a shame expert. As a sex expert, I have to be an expert in shame. And it's really, really important that we talk about, what was I saying now? Oh, I got distracted. Somebody's comment, was disrespectful, which I'm not going to internalize. Oh, but sex, shame and sex. All right. So the first area is attached to shame and sex. And that, of course, is where, what I do in the world is when we're healing our sexuality, when we're healing and we're embracing who we are as a sexual being and we're self-acceptance and self-love and all that kind of stuff, that the first thing that we have to heal, that we got to release is all the shame and letting go of all the sexual shame that, again, came from religion, our parents, society, and our peers. Okay? The second piece where shame people ooze their shame and their judgments onto you is about feeling entitled. So entitlement, like how dare you ask for what you want? How dare you take up space? How dare you have a voice? How dare you want your cake and eat it too? How dare you? Okay, so all those times that you heard, how dare you for being bold? How dare you? How dare you? Those were shame messages being sent at you, okay? And then the next one is all things related to pleasure. So we got sex, but then we also have pleasure, all right? Pleasure, 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 pleasure. Okay, so I'm going to take a moment to set some boundaries about somebody who is listening to me live right now. If you cannot make questions or comments that are related to what I'm talking about, which is shame, then please don't make any comments at all. Please don't make comments about my boobs or being in porn or any of the above that is sexualization of me. That is disrespectful. All right. If you continue to make those comments, I will be removing you. Thank you very much. All right, let's come back to our show. Now, so we got pleasure. So shame around pleasure. So anytime that, and you can see this often where we're not supposed to be allowed to celebrate life, be enjoying the pleasure, drinking your coffee and engaging your senses and all the sensory pleasure possibilities or the emotional pleasure possibilities that are available to us. And often people will project their own, and often the reason why people are projecting their stuff onto you, the judgments and the shame, is because they don't believe that it's okay for them to experience pleasure. So that's another time that you'll probably have been on the receiving end of somebody being like, how dare you, or judging you, or giving you that look. We all know that look of, oh my God, that's not okay. You're disgusting. Why are you making waves? Why are you moaning right now? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Okay, so all those times that you felt that look, all those times that you heard that statement, what is wrong with you? Those are statements of shame. And then the last one I want to lean into is to talk to you about the subtle shame statements that others make in society, your peer group, family members, these kinds of things. And the subtle one is, well, there's that piece, all right? You can hear it in my voice. I'd never do that. I would never do that. You know, when you're expressing enjoy, you know, exploring, whatever it is that you're doing, there's that piece around somebody else making a judgment call. And ultimately that judgment is that there's something wrong with you. And if there's something wrong with you, that manifests itself into shame. That's how it anchors emotionally within us. So there's anything from the subtle to the mild to the extreme. And so when we, especially the extremes are, you know, slut shaming. That's a huge extreme that I've had many conversations about. Pervert shaming is also another area of the extremes, okay? So before I get into the next phase, I really just want you to take a moment. Like, there's a lot to take in, all the different layers, the cognitive stuff. And I want you to just take a moment to think about, how often do I feel shame? What shame am I carrying with me? And how often do I shame others around me? Also known as icking other people's wow. How often do I do that? And why do I do that? Okay. All right. So the next part that I want to talk to you about is how shame can manifest in its body. And this is where I'm going to do story time, story time, story time, story time. All right. Okay. So let's see. Where do I want to start with this story? All right. Let's start with, I am a recovering Catholic. Did I say recovering? He goes, woo, judgment, guilt, and shame up the wazoo. Right? So I grew up Catholic, and part of my Catholic teachings which is funny. I did not think I internalized it. So this is why I'm having this conversation, is that there's where we overtly are, there's two layers. There's the I overtly embrace the shame, like internalized it. And then there's the I refuse, and this is not, and I don't internalize it, but yet it still gets through. Okay. So this is a story about how the shame that was imposed on me got through, even though I was resistant to it, even though I was like, yeah, that's not true. Okay. All right. So as a little girl, growing up Catholic, I was taught some pretty fundamental lessons, like women are evil. If you have a vagina, you are innately evil and you are a sinner. Second lesson that I learned was, because you were born, you are a sinner. And the third lesson that I was taught as a Catholic child is that women are the source of the downfall of all of society. And the next thing and the last thing that was really internalized, that I didn't realize I internalized, was that women's sexuality is pure evil. Okay, so those are fucking heavy. Those are motherfucking heavy, 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 heavy shit, heavy burdens to carry as a little girl because I had a vagina. Now, I didn't realize I actually internalized that, because I didn't agree with them. I didn't believe them. I remember really blatantly saying, no, I don't think that's true. Like, I remember getting the message and the teachings and the, whether it was from the priests or the nuns or, in Bible studies or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that's true. I remember thinking that and saying that to myself, because at heart, I was a pagan. I've been a pagan many, many lifetimes. So the little pagan version of me, this is before I knew what I was, who believed that God created all the earth and the elements and the animals, and he spoke to me through the elements and through the animals, and that was my relationship with God. And the earth and nature and the animals didn't seem to have any of this stuff around that sex was bad or wrong or evil, or pleasure was bad or wrong or evil, or that being a girl was bad, wrong, or evil. So I was like, no, I don't think that's true. So I thought that I handled that really well. I didn't think it affected me. Let's fast forward. Over the last, and I'm very sexually liberated and free. Okay, so let's just put let's put a framework around this. I'm incredibly liberated and free. I'm always exploring new stuff. I show up and even tell the world about all the crazy shit that I do. And yet, how that shame has manifested in my physical body is in two ways. Even though I thought I repelled it, it still got through. One, I had blocked Bartlett ducts, which are lubrication ducts in your vaginal canal. I've had problems on and off, surgeries and horrendous problems on and off for the last 10 years. Right about the time that I started to really lean into my sexuality and embracing all things that were sexual and sexual expression. And my body manifested in breaking my vagina. Okay? So that's one way that my body, that shame carried and held, and I've been carrying that shame in my body. The second way that my body has been carrying that shame is every time I got my period, every month I got my period, I would go through this almost like punishment, this pure on punishment, the cramping, the nausea, the pain, the ribs popping out, I couldn't function for 2 days. I just wanted someone to, off me. because the pain and it was so awful. And what I've realized over the last, in particular, the last 6 months of doing some really deep work in my body and using my flesh method, which is how I have a conversation with my subconscious mind, which is related to, being able to talk to my body. As I've been able to like lean in and really to figure that out, I figured out that's where it's been stored. And so by clearing that, reprogramming that, by healing that, I also have seen a drastic change in my body. So for example, the Bartlett duct is no more blocked once I leaned into the shame and started reparenting and reprogramming all of this shame and releasing and letting go of all this shame. With my period, same thing, letting go and releasing and all that kind of stuff. My pain isn't quite as bad. So those are two ways that I've seen it manifest in me. I've seen shame manifest in the body for a lot of people in many ways. Penis owners, their penis not showing up and having problems in the penis. Vagina owners, yeast infections, constant vaginitis, all sorts of, endometriosis, like all sorts of like physiological problems as it manifests in the genital area. And then I've seen how shame can eat at your soul because you hate who you are, and that affects your ability to have relationships. Okay, so I'm going to end there. And we're going to go to part 2. And this is where, if you want part 2, you're going to have to like pay an extra $5 a month for your extra content. It's well worth it. There's more than just the extra content. Trust me, it's only $5. It's a Starbucks coffee. All right. So if you want more, you want part 2, the link will be in the chat. And you'll have access to part 2 tomorrow, okay? If you go and join Patreon. All right, so I hope you learned some stuff. I hope you had some, deep insights. And I look forward for you coming to see part 2. And if not, I will see you later on today for a show, another episode that I'm doing. I have a guest about kink, so that's awesome. And, if you want to spend more time with me, obviously Patreon, number 1. Number 2, you can find me at all the platforms, Myorgasmic Life, on all the podcasting platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google. I also have my own app on Google Play Store, My Orgasmic Life. For all your BDSM needs, you can find me at empressgaia.com. For all of your sexual wellness needs, you can find me at succulentliving.com. And don't forget to follow me on all the social media platforms under Gaia Morrissette and or Empress Gaia. I hope your day is filled with pleasure and free of shame or judgment. Mwah! That's it. That's all. Bye-bye.